Hello Capricorn, and welcome back to TenPaths Tarot. My name is Everett. Let's get started on your reading. The first card out is the Oracle card, and it's Justice. And here we have someone that is blindfolded. I know Justice is supposed to be blind, but I'm thinking she might want to take off that blindfold. She's weighing skulls. A little creepy. Maybe she would just put them down if she knew what was in there. So let's get started on your recent past. That's the first four cards we'll be looking at. And when I say recent past, keep in mind that you determine what recent past means to you. And I know that some people become frustrated when I say recent past without defining that. But there's a reason for that. Because let's take my own life. A year in my life is going to be a small fraction of my lifetime. Someone who is 20, a year is going to be a significant fraction of their lifetime. It is going to feel a lot longer. And emotion affects time passage. If we're all happy, and we are cheerful and laughing, well, then what happens? Time passes very quickly. But if we're depressed and we say, oh, do I have to get up? Everything drags. Well, then it's going to pass very slowly. And so you use your own judgment. When I say recent past, that means what it is for you. Only you know that. And so the first card in the recent past is again the Justice card. And I think it's interesting that these two Justice cards have such a different feel. This one is either or. Either it balances or it doesn't. Period. This one, oh, and she has her eyes blindfolded, so she can't see. But this one has her eyes wide open. Her arms are open. She's looking at all of the intricacies around her. It is not blind justice, but it is strong. There is a lion there. In spite of her taking the time to look at all of the variables, it is a strong type of justice. So both of these are considered justice. The either or, where we have to consider many things. And so it's up to us how we want to think of life. Do we say there's a perfect right or wrong? Do we tell the lion it's wrong for eating the bird, the goose that's pictured? It's up to us how we want to perceive the world, to a large degree. So let's continue in your recent past. We have the sword in the stone. Now Merlin put the sword in the stone to settle an issue like the justice. He did not want discord as to who was the true king. And so Arthur was supposed to come along and pull that sword out. Only he could, only he was the true king. And so in a sense, this is a justice card again. This is different ways of looking at the same problem. Next we have the Knight of Mirrors, or the Dreamer. And he is thinking, and when I see a tiger jumping out in a mirrors card with mirrors representing love and emotion, ooh, maybe the tiger isn't loving emotion. Maybe it's just emotion out of control. It's sort of a justice too, because to a tiger, you're either dinner or you're not. So they don't even get along that well with other tigers most of the time. So he may be contemplating about how he has done things in the past, how he has perceived things. All of this is on this person's mind. They want fairness in the world. They want to be fair, but maybe they were told this is the way to be fair, this is right or wrong, and they're seeing a different way to be fair, and they're trying to make it jive, make it come together within themselves. And then we have the Eight of Scrolls. This is someone, again, she's looking at ancient traditions, and she's thinking, I can think all of this out. I can bring forth the best from these ancient ways of doing things, from the ancient beliefs, and I can make it all make sense with how I'm living today. And so now let's move into your current energy. It's a beautiful energy we enter with. It's the Nine of Cups, with cups representing emotion. There is only good emotion in this card. There is celebration, there is applause. Life is being brought forth. So everything looks good, everything looks happy. And I sort of get this picture with this life being brought forth, that if we're going to go with the either or justice, what about this child? We know how many mistakes children make, and they are mistakes. They don't know any better. They're just learning the rules. So do we apply that either or justice to them? I hope most people don't. I am sure there are some people that are that harsh, but most people don't, because they realize that there's that gray zone. And this is how, I'm not sure if this is what we want to bring forth. This is what we're hoping for the next generation, or is this how we want to be perceived as the person everyone looks to for guidance, for knowing the correct way to behave? But again, I'm thinking, well, correct way to behave, that could be a regional thing, or a societal thing, a cultural thing. And so as long as we are being relatively kind and decent to other people, there may be fluctuations. And I think that is what in this is causing some anxiety. We are looking back to our own heritage. These two cards came out together, and it shows in the past we've had ancestors who worked very hard. Through their hard work, they created future generations. There is a tendency in this reading, I think, to compare ourselves to those past generations and think we should live the way they did. However, we're born into the time we're born into as they were, and they did well for their time, but that time no longer exists. And so do we want to keep trying to force ourselves into this ancient way of thinking? Do we think that we can force it by thinking our way out of it, or just sticking to this is right, this is wrong because it was wrong how many years ago? I'll tell you an interesting story that is actually true. I once wrote a paper on medieval beliefs and medicine. They used to believe that if two people rolled in the sand together under the moonlight, that they would turn into werewolves. Now, I have a feeling I know why their mothers and fathers told them this story and why it was carried down, but that is what they believed in any case. the next generation believed it too, and this story was carried down for some time. Now we know now that is not true, but for the time, it was a way maybe to convince a younger generation without our modern conveniences to be careful of their behavior. But we don't need those stories anymore. And so do we cling to them? Are you going to tell your kids the story about rolling in the sand that they'll turn into a werewolf? I don't think so. So at some point we have to let these things go. If we don't, we never move ahead in a loving way. And this is the last card in your current energy. We can isolate ourselves by trying to be so different, so conforming to old traditions that we can only look at life moving ahead as we watch, because we fenced ourselves out. We literally fenced ourselves out of life. And so we're back to the Justice card. And it's really up to you. Is this the justice you want? Have you overcome that sense of justice? Has something in your surroundings forced this issue into your mind? That's the sense I'm getting, that something happened that is making you rethink your own beliefs. But there's a tendency to want to cling on out of respect, really. When I see this, this is someone wanting to honor the past. They feel like they don't want to betray all of the work and effort that their ancestors put in. But they only did it for you for a little bit of the reason. Mostly they did it for themselves. And there were many people who did something similar, and it may not have worked out so well. We might want to keep things in perspective as we progress through life. That sounds like a lecture, but I think this is a valid question that Spirit is proposing here. How do we decide? How do we decide? And do we cling to old ways when we see that some of those ways may not work in a new world, hopefully in a better world? And so maybe this is just an issue you're dealing with right now. It has not been resolved. This reading is saying this issue within you has not been resolved, but this is what is on your mind and in your heart right now. And so that is the message today. Spirit recognizes what you're going through, but this judgment, Spirit is not really imposing a judgment. Much of this judgment is an earthly concept. And so it is up to you to how far you want to take it, what you want to consider as acceptable and not, because the connection we have together with Spirit is one of pure love. Pure love. I mean, it's an overwhelming love. And it doesn't do justice. It doesn't worry about grudges from the past. And that is something we can't even consider here on earth. I don't know that we're even capable of that while we're here on earth. But that is the true spiritual connection that we all have together. And so this justice sense is an earthly concept. And it's really up to you, Capricorn, to what degree you want to take it. Of course, we have our general justice system, but even beyond that, in our daily lives, we equally have a structure for deciding what we think is right or wrong. And so it's something of an individual choice. I can't tell you which way to think, and I wouldn't even propose to, because I have to do the same thing myself. I have to think of these things myself. Everyone does. And you will work through it, but I'm getting a sense that balance is not required, but for your own good, it may be recommended. And so that is all Spirit has for you today, Capricorn. I hope it helped in some way. I know this is an ongoing debate for generations to come. Bye for now. I hope to see you again soon.